Today we're tackling a question I get asked about all the time as a kidney doctor. Should you be taking cranberry juice to help prevent urinary tract infections? Well, we have some brand new data to talk about, and we may finally have an answer. Stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching today. My name is Dr. Blake Schusterman. I'm a board-certified kidney doctor, nephrologist, and also the cooking doc. And everything we talk about here today is just for information only. This is not medical advice. So urinary tract infections are very common in women. Most women experience at least one urinary tract infection in their lifetime, and about 10% of women experience a urinary tract infection each year. Now, urinary tract infections are usually treated pretty easily with a short course of antibiotics, but some people develop recurrent infections. So you treat it, it gets better, then it comes back. Then you treat it, it gets better, then it comes back. Then you treat it. Well, anyways, you get the point. So when those urinary tract infections keep coming back, the treatment often defaults to antibiotics. So either a low-dose antibiotic that you take all the time to prevent recurrent infections, or recurrent courses of antibiotics. So you take antibiotics, things get better, then it comes back, then you take antibiotics again, and you kind of get stuck in that cycle. Well, for many, many years, people have taken cranberry juice or cranberry supplements to help prevent those recurrent urinary tract infections. And the data has always been, well, it might actually help, but we're not sure. And when there's a question, you might not necessarily want to be taking extra cranberry juice or cranberry pills because it costs you money, it may have some side effects, and you don't want to take medicine that isn't going to help. So let's talk about the most recent study and the conclusions I've come to about the possibility that cranberry juice will help prevent those recurrent urinary tract infections. So this was published in early 2023, and it's what's called a meta-analysis. This is a study of studies. And they've done this study of studies on cranberry juice and urinary tract infections many times over the course of the last, say, 20 or 30 years. This is just an updated version. And in this updated version, they were able to find more studies to include. So this study in 2023 included 8,000 participants and 50 other studies kind of put together to see if you could come to a generalized conclusion. Now, although meta-analyses have their problems in general, I don't want to focus on that today. Let's just talk about what this study showed. So the comparison that I think was the most interesting was placebo versus cranberry supplement. So if somebody is taking a cranberry supplement or a cranberry juice, is that any better than taking a placebo to prevent those recurrent urinary tract infections? In certain populations, the answer was yes. So women who had recurrent urinary tract infections who were taking cranberry supplement or cranberry juice had a 26% reduction in the amount of recurrent infections. That's great. There was even a positive effect in children. So in children who had a prior urinary tract infection, they saw a 56% reduction in the chance of development of a urinary tract infection for a second time. Again, great news. Now, I'm not your doctor. This is just for information. This is not medical advice. Now, they also looked at the comparison between taking the cranberry supplement versus an antibiotic, and they weren't able to make any conclusions on that. So they couldn't tell if the antibiotic was better than the cranberry supplement, or if the cranberry supplement was better than the antibiotic, or if there was no difference between the two. So far sounds great. And based on what I've seen so far and read so far, I think that cranberry supplements or cranberry juice may have the possibility of lowering the risk of urinary tract infections for people who've had them before. And the even better news is that there were very few side effects. So typically when people take cranberry supplements, they may have GI upset. But there was only a minor increase in GI complaints when people taking the cranberry supplements compared to people who were just taking the placebo. Now, there are certainly a lot of questions that still need to be answered. So the study showed that there were certain populations of people that did not benefit from the cranberry supplements or the cranberry juice. And when you have differences like that show up in a big study, it makes you think, well, maybe there's not something there. So there are still lots of questions that need to be asked. The first, and I think we can answer this, is why do cranberry pills or cranberry juice work? And the reason is that high-dose cranberry juice or cranberry pills have something called PACs in them. A PAC is a proanthocyanidin. Don't quote me on the pronunciation, but that compound may prevent the most common type of bacteria that causes urinary tract infections, E. coli, from sticking to the bladder wall. So we have a real good mechanism of action for the possibility of why that works. So we can answer that question, I think. Now the other questions we still don't know. So how much cranberry supplement do you need to take? We don't know. Does cranberry juice work better than cranberry pills? Or does cranberry pills work better than cranberry powder? Or are they all the same? We just don't know. Now I think that people who take the pills probably have an advantage because it may be less likely to cause that sour stomach that you can get from drinking a lot of cranberry juice. Plus, cranberry juice has sugar, and the pills don't. So if you're drinking a lot of cranberry juice, probably enough that would make a difference with urinary tract infections, you're probably getting too much sugar. Based on that, I would say stick with the pills. And lastly, my favorite thing about this study was that they came to the conclusion that it didn't matter whether the trials were sponsored by the cranberry industry. So looking at conflict of interest in trials is often really important. If a cranberry juice company sponsors a trial about cranberries preventing urinary tract infections and that's positive, but the other trials were negative, it makes you think twice about the intervention. But in this case, there was no difference in the trials whether or not they were sponsored by the cranberry industry or whether they were sponsored by, say, the NIH or some other body that is providing the funding for the study. So, to conclude, there is probably evidence there that cranberry supplements or cranberry pills can prevent women and children from developing recurrent urinary tract infections. And that's great news because nobody wants to take an antibiotic. Now, I am not your doctor, so make sure you discuss all medical changes with your doctor. And I think there are still lots of questions that need to be answered. But the more information we get about cranberry juice and urinary tract infections, the more I think that maybe there is something there. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click that bell so you never miss a new recipe or new health tip. Thanks so much for watching today. Make sure you check out my website, cookingdoc.com, for more information, health tips, and recipes. Check out my book, The Cooking Doc's Kidney Healthy Cooking, the Modern 10-Step Guide to Preventing and Managing Kidney Disease. You can get the e-version for $9.99 at my website, and I will see you next time.